Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here tonight. I am Congressman Ted Poe. I'm glad to host you tonight for this third annual Honor Our Heroes event. And we're going to start the right way. So please stand for the presentation of our colors by the Houston Police Department Honor Guard and the pledges by Councilmember Brenda Stardig, followed by the invocation by Pastor Arthur Craig from the Woodhaven Baptist Church.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in the pledge to our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible.
Order. Ho.
Let us pray together. Our gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for your presence. Thank you for your love and your sustaining grace. Our Heavenly Father, we're gratefully honored to stand in the company of so many American heroes tonight. These great men and women in uniform have served our country and nation with honor, diligence, and a compassion for freedom, a freedom that is not free. We have also gathered to remember and celebrate the lives of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedom that we all cherish. We shall never forget, because they died not for the glory of war, but for the prize of freedom. And for their families, Father, we pray that you will wrap your strong arms around them and confirm in their hearts that these heroes did not die in vain. Give them the strength to pick up the pieces of shattered dreams and continue this unending process of healing. Father, we are so blessed and thankful for strong leaders like Congressman Poe and other local and state and national officials who lead the charge in making wise and right decisions for America's future. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on this gathering tonight. Bless all who have made this evening possible, and may God bless America. I humbly lift this prayer in the precious and holy name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Be seated, please. Thank you all for being here tonight for this third annual Honor Our Heroes event. 1 out of 10 men or women wearing the United States uniform of a military warrior is from the state of Texas. I want to thank all of you for being here, especially those of you who have served and are serving in the military, and the families of those who are serving and have served in the military. This event tonight is just in my opinion, a pep rally, an old-fashioned patriotic pep rally to let us focus on things that are important, and that is those Americans who have always signed up and gone and represented our flag somewhere in the world. Someone asked me earlier, well, what is special about August the 20th? And I said, nothing is special about August the 20th, except that's when we have our Honor the Heroes event. It's not on Memorial Day. It's not near Veterans Day. It's not the 4th of July. It's a time just in the middle of the year where I think it's important that we honor and represent those who have worn the uniform. I want to thank the Billy Ledbetter Band for getting us off to a great start. Some of you are old enough to remember and sing and dance with some of those songs that you have been hearing them play. They always come every year, and we appreciate them being here. I want to thank Councilmember Brenda Stardig for being here, leading our pledges, as well as the Houston Police Department Honor Guard for posting and presenting the colors. Pastor Craig is an annual appearance at this event. His son, Staff Sergeant Brian Craig, served in Afghanistan and was killed in 2002 in Kandahar. We honor Brian and thank him for his service, and we remember him and his family that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. Over here to my, I hate to use this word, left is, it's just hard for me to say. Anyway, is a tribute to Brian. His photograph, stop by and meet the family that is here as well. There's a special guest that we have. We have Senator, sorry, Dwayne, I didn't promoted you. State Representative Dwayne Bohac, once again, Council Member Brenda Stardig. We have Woody Mitchell, Harris County Sheriff's Office, representing the majors representing the Sheriff's Department, and then we have Chief Jim Sumner, also representing Sheriff Hickman. He's somewhere. Oh, he's right on the front row as well. And so Mike Knox is a candidate for City Council at large, position 1. He's an Air Force veteran. He's here. Council Member Michael Kubosh is here, and then one of my favorite judges when we served on the bench together is Judge Belinda Hill. Where are you, Judge? Oh, she's right here in front. She's on our Academy Board as well. There are other members of our Academy Board that are here. What is that, the Academy Board? I have a board of people in the community who are young men and women who want to serve in the military in our academies. They go and apply through our office, and I have a board led by Colonel Jack Zimmerman that they have to all get interviewed by. And then through that, they make recommendations to me, and then I nominate certain ones of them to our military academies. And so we have some of those individuals. Victor Alvarez, Mayor of Spring Branch. Michael Baker is here. Lavon Cox. Gracie De Leon is here. Spike Garcia, Sergeant Garcia, where are you? Up here on the front. I already introduced Belinda Hill. Brigadier General Thomas Cloditz is here. Colonel Jack Zimmerman, and Terry Zimmerman also is on that board. Randy Sims and Richard Malone. All of those individuals are here. Thank them for coming. A quick note. Since I've been in Congress in 11 years, I have nominated and 84 individuals who have been appointed to our military academies. 84. So we're averaging a little over 7 a year getting into our military academies. And some of you are wondering, how can you do that when you're supposed to only get 3? Well, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, we're getting 84 have been assigned to our military academies. The one other thing, as a footnote, after this is over, next door we have a reception and there's food. Chick-fil-A is there. Stay as long as you would like. And at this time, I want to introduce our MC for this evening. Craig Roberts had a remarkable career at KPRC, Channel 2, as a local sports anchor and a reporter spanning the decades of the 80s and the 90s. Some of you will remember the Oilers' Love You Blue days, Houston Rockets 94 to 95 Clutch City days, the Killer Bees Sports Sundays before there was even ESPN. All of that was covered by Craig Roberts. He spent 15 years on air and on local radio stations, including Z107, KLOL, KMBE, 97.5, and News 92 FM. And now he is the manager of the blog, The Daily Craig. I asked Craig to be here tonight for a lot of reasons. One, he's a Houstonian. Those of us who grew up here know him quite well, but also Craig was a member of the United States Marine Corps, served in Vietnam. Marines. And I said that wrong. I said he was in the Marine Corps. There are no former Marines. There are no retired Marines. Are there, Colonel Zimmerman? Everybody is in the Marine Corps for the rest of their lives. So thank you. Craig, thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for being here. Help me welcome our MC for this evening, Craig Roberts.
Thank you, Congressman Poe. It's my pleasure to be here. I've been off the air for about 8 months now, so this is the largest group I've seen. And since there's free chow at the end, I know you won't be leaving. I want to salute the Marines who are in attendance today. I want to briefly run over my career. 3 years in the Marine Corps, and I had perfect attendance. The few, the proud, the reluctant, that was Corporal Roberts. I rose through the ranks to E4. It's a good thing I had a college education, or I might still be in the receiving barracks. But that's another story. My grandfather served on the USS Oregon in the Spanish-American War. My father served in the submarine service, and my uncle Whitey was a Marine artillery officer on Midway. And he assured me that was not a Western Pacific vacation. So our family has long and storied history. Another uncle shot down over Europe, lost an eye, and when he came back to the United States, all the kids came over to our house because they'd never seen a guy with a patch over his eye, and I said, you know, he killed Hitler. And I got away with that story for several years. The school children I grew up with were very gullible. And but then later I corrected that to include my father having killed Hitler. And they said, well, wait a minute, your dad was in the submarine service in the South Pacific. And I said, that gives you some idea how hard it was to get to Hitler. Again, thank you very much. Vietnam and Korean veterans appreciate this, and I know the World War II guys got a lot of accolades, Grenada, all the other, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. But as the only war I was in, I just want you to know how we appreciate the significance of this. And a brief time, 47 years I got out 47 years ago. And Colonel Zimmerman, I'm convinced you're going to throw a junk on the bunk. I got my thumbs along the seam of my trousers. I have no Irish pennants. I'm ready to go. You break out an inspection, I'm standing tall. Just don't do it tonight because I got to go somewhere afterwards. It's my extreme pleasure to continue the program by introducing those who will speak this evening. Dwayne Bohac is right here at home in the 138th District. Native of Spring Branch, lives in Spring Branch. Well, actually born in Northwest, crime-free, I might add, crime-free Northwest Houston. His father fought in the Korean War. I see the police officers agreed with me there. He is, of course, a strong supporter of our veterans and active service members in just about every military function or a chance to honor those who served, be it in the police and the fire sense now as opposed to the military. Dwayne is always there for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Dwayne Bohac, representative of the 138th District.
Thank you, Craig. And thank you, Congressman Poe, for putting together this third annual Honor Our Heroes event. I think, Brenda, we were invited to both of them, so I know it's a treat, especially. Brenda represents you guys in the city of Houston. I represent you guys in the state of Texas in Austin. And Ted represents you, Congressman Poe, represents y'all in Washington. So I know it's a treat for all of us to represent this amazing community. Again, it's an honor to be here tonight along with Congressman Poe, Congressman Johnson, Councilmember Stardig, and the true American heroes, you guys. As Craig stated, my name is Dwayne Bohac. I have a funny last name. It's 5 letters, but it's very difficult sometimes to pronounce. It's a Czech last name. My parents are from Fayette County. Y'all know where Fayette County is, about 100 miles down the road. When they moved to Houston, they moved to the Heights, and then they settled in Oak Forest, where I was born and raised. I'm a lifelong resident of this district, and I represent District 138 in the Texas House, and there's 150 House members. And let me tell you a little secret about the way I remember that. There's 150 chapters in the book of Psalms in the Old Testament. Likewise, there's 150 House members. We have 31 Texas senators in Austin. Likewise, there are 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, and those two books are right next to each other. And knowing what I know about Texas and our love for God and country, I don't think that's an accident. What do you think? I really do admire those that wear the uniform of our country. I really do. We live in a great nation. But freedom has a very high price, and the military is prepared to pay that ultimate price. And protecting freedom from enemies, both foreign and domestic, can be quite costly, as history has shown. General Omar Bradley once said this. I want to read you just a couple of quotes and then I'm going to end. General Omar Bradley said this: "The heritage of freedom must be guarded in peace, be as carefully guarded in peace as it was in war." That's deep. Sacrifice, not selfishness, must be the eternal price of liberty. Vigilance, not appeasement, is the byword of living freedoms. Our founding fathers recognized the power of liberty, and they recognized the cost to defend her, and you do too. They believed that freedom could inspire a nation and lift it to new heights, and it's true, and it has here in America, and we can be proud. I love America. We're not a perfect country. It might come as a shock to everybody in the media. There is no perfect country. But we're as close as you can ever be. America and the military have done more to ensure freedom around the world than any other country in the history of the world. Thank you for that. And when we by the way, when we help another country, we take none of the land we liberate, except the little bit necessary to bury our dead. And in this country specifically, we have done more to elevate every single people group that has ever lived here or inhabited this country than any other democratic idea ever has. We're not perfect, but we can be proud of America. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here tonight. And now on with the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. When a Houston event involves the military or service members, Senior Master Sergeant John Spike Garcia is always involved. He began his military career in 1983 and served 27 years with the Air Force, the rank of Senior Master Sergeant. Served 2 combat tours in Iraq, 2005 and 2007, where he supported special ops and other American forces on the ground. He continues to give back here at home. I've worked with him on several charities in the past. He's on all kinds of boards like the Lone Star Veterans Association, the Veterans Night, and Houston Astros Veterans Tribute. He is also the consultant when you see the flyovers at various events. It's usually Spike, and he usually has them down to a second. He's been a consultant for the Texans, the Astros, the Rockets, and the Dynamo, and continues to be so. He has earned, as you might imagine, numerous honors, including the Air Force One support presentation from President George W. Bush. He helped plan tonight's event, and we are honored to have him here with us, John Spike Garcia.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Congressman Poe. It's an honor and pleasure for me to be here tonight and be able to be part of this great ceremony. One of the things that I remember as a little kid when I first growing up, I wanted to join the military. It was a life goal of mine. It was because I love my country. And I also wanted to travel. So one of the first duty stations I had was in Germany. And it's amazing the number of bonds when you're looking at your career, regardless if it was 3 years, 27 years, you make the bonds with so many people that you served with. And as many of us, as we finish our term in the military, you don't have that same bond with others that you feel with veterans. So what I did was I started doing a lot of volunteer work, and I was in that place again with veterans. We were just wearing a different uniform now, but the bond was still there. Fortunately, at my company, we have a veteran network program. And what I want to talk to you about is continued service. As you served your country when you wore the uniform, you can still continue to serve your country. And I'm sure there are many here that do that now. Our veteran network group, we partnered up, our company, FMC, partnered up with several others, Houston, Texas, Operation Finally Home, and the Pulte Group. And last Friday, we gave the keys to home to a combat veteran, to him and his wife, and that will help him and his family to be able to transition and have one less stress item that he has to deal with on a daily basis, that now he can assimilate back into the community. And that is what I say, look to see what opportunities you have with the VFW, with American Legion, with Lone Star Veterans Association. The mission continues. There's so many out there that you can do where you're helping out your fellow veteran, and it gives you that bond again, and is very rewarding. So again, thank you for your service, and I salute each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Spike. Next year, he's going to have a drone fly over right inside the building here. It's going to be very effective. Well, I don't know about you, but when I got the notice, I figured it was a jury call. No, most of us have had that jury call and ended up in Judge Poe's court. I recently got a jury. It wasn't from his court, of course, but the judge looked up and said, "What are you doing here?" And I had a pretty good idea I was not going to be selected, and I was right on the money. But everyone knows about poetic justice when it comes to Congressman Poe. Went to high school right here in Spring Branch, has dedicated his life to public service, teacher, Air Force reservist, prosecutor, criminal court judge, and now, of course, as he has pointed out, for 11 years, congressman representing the 2nd District of Texas. He's gone overseas many times to speak with our troops. Photographic records of that are in the building. He runs a holiday card drive every fall to send handmade Christmas cards to our troops. Tonight's event is a small testament to his sincere support of our troops, and I know that when Ted Poe's name is presented, All of us who are veterans and those who are family members of veterans know exactly where he stands, and that is in our corner, and that goes for the rest of the Americans in the 2nd District also. Congressman Poe.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you very much. Thank you once again for being here. I noticed that we have a couple of folks that I haven't introduced. We've got the U.S. Marshal, Gary Blankenship. Doesn't he look like a marshal from Texas? And Cameron Wells from Marshal's office as well. Thank you both for being here. A couple of things. We have a video that's being played. It'll start up again in a minute, of those of you who have submitted photographs and people in the 2nd Congressional District of veterans. Sometimes those photographs were taken when you were in service, and some of them were taken when you weren't in service and you couldn't get in your uniform. But I want you all to make sure that you view that, because we are proud of that. My staff, I want to thank my staff for making all this happen. I really do have the best congressional staff in all of the United States Congress, and I want to thank them publicly for all they do, especially for this event. Many of you in this room remember days when Americans that served in the military weren't thanked, weren't appreciated for their service. Those of you in Korea, when you came back, history records that nobody even noticed when you came back. When Vietnam veterans came back, people did notice, but the reception was not pleasant. Things were said and done to our Vietnam veterans. America's gotten better about treating our warriors the way they should be treated. And I have been proud to be at some parades in Beaumont, Texas, when the reservists, the National Guard, come back from overseas. We're doing a better job as a nation. And we want to always remember those that fight for America. Over here in this far corner where Marlene is standing, that's Marlene. Yep, she's not getting out of the way. That's Frank Buckles Jr. I knew Frank Buckles Jr. He was the last survivor of World War I. He lied to get into the United States Army. He was 15 and lied to get in. He served in World War I as an ambulance driver. World War II came around. He found himself in the Philippines. And he was captured by the Japanese and put in a prisoner of war camp. He lived to the age of 110. And that's a photograph taken of him when he signed up as a 15-year-old. And that's right. The other photograph was right before he passed away a few years ago. It's the 100th year of the beginning of World War I. 100 years ago, the war started, the war to end all wars. All the veterans, the doughboys, the sailors, and the few airmen that lived have all passed away. And it is our responsibility to remember everybody that served. A lot of folks don't know that Memorial Park was named Memorial Park to remember the warriors that were trained at Camp Logan in Memorial Park in World War I. And Memorial Park gets the name from the memorial to those people that served. Memorial Drive. So when you think about Memorial Drive and you're driving down Memorial Drive, that's because of those that served and were trained in Camp Logan before they were sent overseas to fight in Europe and some to fight in other places throughout the world. As I mentioned earlier, families go to war when their sons and daughters and spouses go to war too, but they just stay here. And if there are any Blue Star moms that are here, would you please stand? Blue Star moms, if any of them are here. Alice Reckwood is here. 2, 3. Blue Star moms are the moms that have sons and daughters that are serving. Gold Star moms are moms who had sons and daughters that served but were killed in the line of duty. And we always want to remember the families that stay. Our congressional district has had 37 young men and women from all branches of the service, everything from a private to a colonel in the Air Force killed in Afghanistan or Iraq. We have that poster up somewhere. I guess it's out in the hallway. I would ask whoever's out there to bring that in so we could have it in here. But stop by and notice those individuals. In all of our offices, we have 8 batons of each of those individuals who have been killed in the recent wars that we have had in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thank you, Heather. Heather's one of my staffers that I work for. We have a lot of special guests. I've introduced some of them. I want to mention one of those, Lieutenant Tom Morgan. Would you stand, Lieutenant Tom Morgan? He was, keep standing, don't sit down, don't sit down. He was our last year's honoree for the Congressional Patriot Award. He volunteered in World War II, like many of you others that did, and he joined the Marines in 1942 and was deployed to the Solomon Islands, Guadalcanal, the Marshall Islands, Saipan, Okinawa, and despite contracting malaria, he continued to serve our nation in a tour of Southeast Asia. When the war ended and Japan surrendered, he went to China to oversee Japan's surrender. He earned the rank of sergeant and stayed with the Marines until 1946. Is that right? He didn't stop doing public service. He worked in the pipelines for 30 years, raised 3 kids. He retired, but he thought he was lazy. So he saw an ad in the newspaper for people to join the Harris County Sheriff's Office as a reserve. So in 1992, 50 years after enlisting in the Marines, he went to the Sheriff's Academy in Atascocita, and he is still a member of the Sheriff's Department, and he is the oldest person to ever graduate from the Academy, and he is still Texas's oldest serving peace officer. And and recently I've heard that he's the oldest peace officer in the United States. He's only 94. So help me just congratulate Tom and his bride for being here. We have a lot of good families in Texas. And you may or may not have ever heard of the Rapowski family. It's a farming family that lives over in Liberty County. I had the chance to meet some of the Rapowski brothers and sisters at a Memorial Day service. If you would look up in the dictionary of Patriot family, you would see the word Ripkowski, even though I pronounce it wrong and you cannot spell it. The Ripkowskis are a band of warriors from the same family, 12 brothers, 12. And for you moms, there was also 2 daughters. That's 14 children born in the 20s and the 30s. World War II comes around, and they all join the United States military. The 12 brothers do. They served in all branches of the service throughout the world. And they all lived to come back home to Texas. Some of those brothers stayed in and served in Korea, in the Korean War, in combat. All 12 throughout the world. None of them were assigned to the same units, but occasionally they ran across each other in Europe and Okinawa and other places. And many of them still live in their 90s over in Dayton, Texas, in Liberty County. The oldest, Herman, moved away. He moved to Liberty, Texas, 5 miles down the road from Dayton. And you may have never heard of them. just patriot individuals from our congressional district. Of course, we have many of you from Vietnam, Korea, World War II, recent wars. Of course, my favorite hero is also here tonight. And he, as a young man, never been more than about 50 miles from home, found himself in the United States Army at a boot camp in Camp Walters, Texas, shipped off to New York City, gets on a Liberty ship at night, and goes across the pond, as they say, to the Great War in World War II. Landed in Le Havre, France, and spent the next 2 years as a private and then finally a tech sergeant serving in the United States Army. When the war was over, he didn't have enough points to get out. Some of you World War II vets know that you had to have a certain amount of points before the military would let you out. So he shipped back home, and he ends up at Fort Hood, Texas, being trained for the invasion of Japan. That's when he really got lucky, because at a prayer meeting, that's what they call Wednesday night services back in the World War II days, were prayer meetings. At a prayer meeting service, he meets his wife, my mother, Doris Poe, and Virgil and Doris Poe are here, my favorite World War II veteran, and it's certainly my favorite World War II bride. And so I want to thank you two for being here tonight, and glad y'all met up. We do have some World War II veterans. We're going to recognize all of our veterans in a few minutes, but the World War II veterans, I introduced my favorite, but those of you that served in World War II, the greatest generation, would you also stand? World War II veterans. We got several of them. Thank you. We had another veteran that was supposed to be here tonight. Colonel Sam Johnson is stuck in an airport in Dallas. I talked to him on the telephone. He was not happy. I will not say what he said. But he is very sorry he could not be here. So I'm going to tell you about him. That's him up there on that screen. The current Lieutenant Colonel Sam Johnson was flying an F-4 Phantom over North Vietnam as an Air Force pilot. On his second tour of duty in Vietnam, Colonel Johnson was flying with a fighter squadron called Satan's Angels when his plane was shot down by ground fire. That was April 16, 1966. Colonel Johnson became a POW. Colonel Johnson was a career military. At 20 years of age, he joined the United States Air Force. He'd never even been on an airplane, but he wanted to be a pilot. So he became a pilot. He flew 65 missions in North Korea. Can you imagine flying 60 missions in Korea? You Korean guys know what that would have been like. When the war was over, on his 25th mission in Vietnam, flying an F-4, he shot down by ground fire. And he was captured by the Viet Cong, and he was held as a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7 years. He was put through torture, and it's difficult to even talk about the torture he went through. But it was 7 years of his life. He would not give in to the North Vietnamese intimidation. So the enemy moved him to what was called the Hanoi Hilton, or Alcatraz, as our military called it. It was not just a POW camp. It was the POW camp where they sent the meanest, toughest, hardcore Americans too. And it was called Alcatraz, or the Hanoi Hilton. They called themselves the Alcatraz gang, and they were so hard-nosed they were segregated from everybody else. Colonel Sam Johnson, the Vietnamese gave him a nickname. They called him Die Hard. And you've probably seen the movie Die Hard 1, 2, 3, and 4. The original Die Hard was Sam Johnson in Vietnam. For 7 years, he was beaten, he was tortured, and they got no information from him. He was a pillar of patriotism and strength, and he never broke down. All of his stubbornness landed him then in solitary confinement. He was in solitary confinement in that prisoner of war camp for 4 years. He was subjected to a cell that was 3 feet by 9 feet. Now, 3 feet by 9 feet is about this square right here. That's about 3 feet by 9 feet. That was his cell for 4 years. During those 4 years, the light bulb above his head was on 24 hours a day. He didn't see anyone except the Vietnamese. And at night, he was put in leg irons and chained against the wall. This torture was cruel, it was mean, it was harsh, but he never gave in. While he was in a POW camp, he and other POWs, the few that were there, figured out a way they could communicate with each other. And they memorized a code, and they tapped on the wall so they could communicate with each other. One of the things they did was to memorize the names of the other POWs that had been in that camp, or portions of that camp. Because you see, the rest of the world didn't know that these POWs existed. And so what they wanted to do was memorize the names of everybody else so that when they escaped, because they were all intending to escape, and they got home back to America, they could tell the families of those 400 plus other POWs who was in the camp and that they were still alive. He entered the POW camp when he was shot down. He was 200 pounds. He ate weeds, pig fat, rice, and when he was finally released, he had lost 80 pounds. Colonel Sam couldn't be here tonight, but I want to read you some of the things he would have told you had he been up here. He said, "I'm a proud American, so when I was called to serve my country and defend freedom, I didn't blink an eye. At the age of 20, I signed up to become a fighter pilot even though I'd never been on an airplane. I thought it sounded like a lot of fun. In my 29 years in the Air Force, I flew 62 combat missions during Korea, 25 during Vietnam, and it was on my 25th mission that I was shot down over North Vietnam. My co-pilot, Chesley, was also shot down. We ejected, and we were captured. In the midst of parachuting to the ground, my right arm was broken, my left arm was severely injured, and I broke my back. After landing, I struggled to get to higher terrain, and while trudging through the jungle, I was quickly found by a group of North Vietnamese soldiers. They eventually took me to the infamous Hanoi Hilton. It was there I spent 7 years of my life. I don't want to get into the graphic details that went on there, the meat hook, the leg irons, the leg stocks, but I'd like to share something positive about those hellish years. The good Lord is gracious, He's merciful, and at the lowest point in my life, He provided me strength to be a strong individual while I was a POW. One of those people that supported me was a naval aviator that had also been shot down, Jerry Denton. Jerry was the first person I ever met in prison after 6 days of torture. He was in the neighboring cell, and that very first night we became friends. He taught me how to tap on the prison wall so we could communicate with each other and communicate with the other POWs. The tap code kept our spirits up, and it saved our sanity. Jerry and I fought back against the North Vietnamese any way we could. As a result, our names were blacklisted together as die-hard resistors with 8 other POWs. Remember, these are the most obstinate of all the POWs. Maybe you'll recognize some of the names of those other 8 POWs. George Thomas Coker, Harry Jenkins, George McKnight, James Mulligan, Howard Rutledge, Robert Shoemaker, Jim Stockdale, Ron Storns, and Nels Tanner. We were the Alcatraz gang. It was in Alcatraz we spent 42 months in solitary confinement, with our legs either shackled in cuffs or put in leg stocks at the bottom of our beds. Once again, in a 3-foot by 9-foot cell. Starvation, isolation, and torture were constant companions. There was no news from home, and the enemy worked hard to make us feel that we had been forgotten by America. Despite these conditions, there are many examples of patriotism by other POWs that demonstrated this during the time that I will always remember. In the late spring 1966, Jerry was severely tortured and was forced to make a public TV interview appearance. Some of you may remember this appearance by Jerry. In defiance, he repeatedly blinked while on world television in Morse code during the interview, and he spelled out the word Torture, torture. In doing so, Jerry confirmed with U.S. intelligence for the first time that POWs in Vietnam were being tortured. I mentioned earlier that our POW wives' efforts played an instrumental role in bringing us back home, but their efforts also put pressure on the Vietnamese and the Viet Cong to actually treat us a little bit better. Now, all of my Alcatraz buddies were finally moved out of solitary and given a cellmate and a friend to look at with their eyes for the first time, except me. I was still left in solitary confinement. So what the rest of the POWs did in 1970 was go on a hunger strike until the Viet Cong finally put me in a cell with the rest of them. If you can imagine that, they're already being starved to death. Now they go on a hunger strike because of some other POW, some other warrior. I got through all of those years by the good Lord's mercy. And I say that with the utmost sincerity. My POW years shaped my perspective on faith and service like no other experience. 7 years of my life, 4 years in solitary confinement. And the bottom line, every veteran, whether they are alive, no longer with us, a POW, an MIA, certainly deserves respect and support. A phrase that I will never forget was on a wall etched by some other POW. It read, "Freedom has a taste to it to those who fight and nearly die, that the protected will never know." Our veterans know that. And you know, Americans know that as well. After Sam Johnson was released, he came back to Texas. He started his own business. He went to the Texas State Legislature. And now Sam Johnson, Colonel Sam as we call him, is a member of the Texas delegation in the United States House of Representatives. He is sorry he could not be here. But you need to know his story, his life, and his feelings about those of you who serve, those that have served. And thank you very much, each and every one of you, for being here tonight. I'm going to turn this back over to Craig.
Now, this portion of the program is to salute our heroes who are in attendance this evening. And I hope I get this right. I'm going to announce the branch's name, and as you hear your branch's hymn, all veterans and service members proceed to the side of the stage and form a line. That will be stage left, which is your other left, as we used to say, right over here. It's my right, but it's your left. So we're going to start with the United States Army, And for those, some of you I know it will take a while, may not be able to get up here as quickly, please take your time, be recognized. All right. I'm going to ask you your name,
Vietnam.
Vernica Bolin, Sergeant First Class, retired. I'm a Cold War soldier out of Europe and Italy.
Colonel Mo Rivera, U.S. Army, Hua. Served Desert Storm, Iraqi, Enduring Freedom.
Thank you, Colonel. I recognize this guy.
Virgil Poe, Army, Europe.
Well, I hope your son makes something of himself. Thank you.
His mama raised him.
That's it.
I'm Peter Maffitt, First Lieutenant, U.S. Army. I served at Opelika.
I'm Bob Ivany, Major General of Vietnam and Germany.
Thank you, General.
I'm Will Ulrich, Specialist 4th Class, served stateside during the Berlin crisis.
I'm Evelyn Clark, Sergeant Clark, and I serve in Operation Desert Seal, Desert Storm.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Jim Mueller, PFC. That's as far as I got. That's why 37 years I'm a Scoutmaster.
God love you.
First Sergeant Bill Sires, Cold War soldier, 43 years, Navy and Army.
Wow.
Tom Kolditz, Brigadier General, Iraq, and 18 other postings. Thank you.
General?
Robert Carr, U.S. Army, Vietnam.
Donna Holman, U.S. Army, 101st Airborne Division, Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Screaming Eagle.
Kimberly Erlin, I was a lieutenant in the Army. During peacetime. There was no war. Germany.
Good evening. Colonel Jakey Snap, 22 years active duty, Special Forces, 17 combat tours.
Wow.
Leslie Kessler, T5, U.S. Army, Amphibian Engineers, South Pacific, New Guinea, Borneo, and Philippines.
Sergeant Roger Morris, retired Army, Korea and Cold War.
Ron Bruton, E4, Vietnam, 68-69, 1st Infantry Division. Thank you.
Big Red One.
Max Johnson, First Lieutenant, Korea.
Henry?
Henry Martinez. I was 16 when I went into service in 1947. I served in Korea, a PFC.
Wayne Telling. I was with the Baker Company, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Division, and I was a staff sergeant. Lots of fun.
I always looked at it as free meals.
Really?
There you go.
Rod Ramsey, 32nd Infantry Regiment, 1st Lieutenant, U.S. Army.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Chauncey Eisenhower, 25th Infantry Division in Korea. Army.
Ray Rhodes, Colonel, U.S. Army, 2 years Vietnam, as an advisor to the Vietnamese Airborne Division.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Eugene Becerra, retired, United States Army, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and then after I retired, I was a retiree recall for Afghanistan and Iraq on medical issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harold Kaufman, U.S. Army,
Korean War, and in Canada.
So my name is John Lee, 8th Army, Panmunjom Special Assignment. Thank you.
Ben Chambers, First Lieutenant, Schofield Barracks, Hawaii.
Cameron Welch, Specialist, United States Army, 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. I served in Operation Uphold Democracy in Haiti and Operation Joint Guard in Bosnia.
Verna Stanley, Sergeant, U.S. Army, Germany, and United States during peacetime.
Bob Bighouse, 2nd Chemical Mortar Battalion. There are two of us here. Korea.
Ben Schrader, Korean War. U.S. Army.
Yeah, I was thinking you were on our side. It just
Jim Duncan, 40th Division, 140th Tank Battalion, Korea, with the 12th Rock Division.
All right. Thank you. Robert?
Robert Pelton, U.S. Army, Military Police, Operation Enduring Freedom.
That's my son. He's the real hero here. Robert Pelton, U.S. Army, 36th Division, Texas Army National Guard, 66 through 72.
Kevin Barber, 1st Military Police Company, Grenada.
No. I got it. I got your mention in.
U.S. Army, Staff Sergeant Ortega, Desert Shield and Desert Storm.
Jim Pogue, Lieutenant, United States Army, served in Germany during the Vietnam era.
We're handing out beer chits here, so we want this line to hurry up. While we catch up a little bit, I can recall getting the chits we used to get haircuts, and I had a Panamanian staff sergeant who told me I got to get my chit together, and I thought he meant I had to get a haircut.
U.S. Army, Sergeant Sosa, Republic of Korea.
Staff Sergeant Charles Martin, Afghanistan.
Sergeant Reynaldo Martinez, United States, in Germany. Now serving with the Texas Army. Lieutenant Colonel Terry Wolf, served in Europe, Cold War, 2nd Armored Cav, toujours prêt.
Joseph Decker, 36th Infantry Division, Fort Gordon, Georgia, 6869.
Dan Harris, Colonel, Bosnia, Kosovo, and Afghanistan.
Reese Dunn, Washington, D.C., the Pentagon, part of General Westmoreland support staff.
Tell him I said hi.
Hi, Colonel Steve French. I am active duty, currently serving as the Deputy Commander of the Southern Division, stationed here at Ellington Field in Houston. Cool.
Hi.
Colonel Tom Lewis, retired, Desert Storm, New Dawn, and beat Navy.
Captain Thomas W. Harper, United States Army, 1st Cavalry Division. Whoop.
Les Welch, retired Master Sergeant, Enduring Freedom, and Desert Storm.
Bob Hall, Warrant Officer, U.S. Army, served in Germany, 32nd NAGCOM, 2 tours, and also a really nice tour in Italy.
Brandon Kinsey, Command Sergeant Major, 24 years Army, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, no IF.
Carl Benton was in the 739th Tank Battalion, was a medic.
Thank you.
Spec 4, Bernard Hotelling, 7th Engineers, 5th Infantry, Northernmost, Vietnam.
Rick Barker, 545th MP Company, Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Roger Rodriguez, retired Army Master Sergeant,
combination of active duty and Army Reserve.
Specialist 4th Class, Tanya Horn, Women's Army Corps, Kaiserslautern, West Germany.
Sergeant Michael Picola, United States Air Force.
Thank you, Michael. All right, I know this next song. Let's have the Marines in attendance. Please line up.
Love that, don't you?
Man, I could hear that again. Here we go.
That sounded pretty good, right? I'm Tom Morgan. I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. Went in January 42, got out in February 46, signed up for the reserve, and did pretty good back in World War II because they invited me to the Korean War.
Good for you. And I see you have a 1st Marine Division patch on there, so good for you. Jeb, you're next.
Thank you, Jeb Strickland, Marine Corps Fighter Attack Squadron 212 in Vietnam, and was a major, and loved flying the F-4 for 28 missions.
Thank you.
John Pyle, Colonel. I almost got to Cuba in 1963, but now I can go there legally.
Charlie Erland, 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, Air and Naval Gunfire, Fleet Marine Force Atlantic, Corporal.
All right. We did all the work. Those sergeants got all the glory.
My name is Terrence Ford, United States Marine Corps, Sergeant, Tedder 68.
All right.
Jack Zimmerman, a Colonel, Artillery Officer in Vietnam, and Infantry Officer later.
I'm the other Colonel Zimmerman, Terry Zimmerman. I still currently drill and am the reserve counterpart to the Chief Defense Council of the Marine Corps.
She's the better-looking Zimmerman.
Drew Daniel, Sergeant, 2nd Marine Air Wing, Cold War.
Bob North, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, 3rd Marine Division, Vietnam, 66 and 7. Hoorah!
Hoorah!
Ruben Amai, United States Marine Corps, 63 to 68, served in Vietnam, 65, 66, 67, 68.
Jose Silveria Plaza, served from 79 to 83, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps, 2nd FSSG, Motor Transport Battalion.
Sergeant Guerra, Vietnam, 1968. I joined the Marine Corps before I was out of high school. My parents wouldn't sign the papers for me.
Colonel Mike Harrington, retired Marine Corps, Vietnam.
Sergeant Peter Cisneros was with MWSS 272, one of the first units that landed in Iraq. Now I serve for the Vet Center.
Thank you, Peter.
Robert Chavez, Desert Storm.
Steve Oding, Staff Sergeant, Iwakuni in Japan.
Billy Brown, Korea, March of 51 to August of 53, POW for 2 years.
Ray Johnson, Marine Corps, 2 tours of duty, Vietnam.
My name is Lee Henderson. I was in the Marine Corps from 51, 52 with Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 5th as a light machine gunner.
Major Lynn Walker, United States Marine Corps, retired. I got to serve in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Lance Corporal Floyd Perry, Mike Company 3-1, Vietnam 66, 67, 68.
Craig Roberts, Corporal, Vietnam, 1967, 1-9. All right, let's get the sailors up here.
United States Navy Religious Program Specialist Seaman, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. My father is a retired Navy captain, Vietnam veteran in the Navy, and Sandra's father and grandfather were Vietnam and World War II in the Navy.
Claudia Benson, Hospital Corps Wave, Great Lakes Naval Hospital, and Medevac Corps Wave, E6, Vietnam, and a mother of 2 Army veterans.
Good for you.
My name's Jim Harding. I was a journalist, United States Navy, assigned to Combat Photo Team 66. Served in Vietnam in 1968, and I did all the strike journalists. Of those people mentioned, we had 7 aviators who were in the captured and did time in the Hanoi Hilton, all of which we prayed for them every day they were there. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a officer in the Air Force who obviously also served in the Navy.
Barry Dalgo. I was a lieutenant commander of the Navy, 2 tours to Vietnam, 99 missions. Got out in 82, but currently am the commander of the 447th Air Support Group in the Air Component Command of the Texas State Guard.
Thank you, Colonel.
Wesley Kruger, electrician's mate, 3rd class, United States Navy. Proudly served in Korea for 3 years. God bless America.
Thank you.
Lynn Strang, lieutenant in the Navy Security Group, and still a top secret what I did.
Dick Halferty, Captain U.S. Navy, Korea.
Jim Merriman, Captain U.S. Navy, retired, 3 tours Vietnam, Operation El Dorado Canyon, Raid in Libya, Beirut, Lebanon, and yes, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and finally Bosnia. 30 years retired.
Hank Dowman, Airman, Combat Air Crewman, Korea, 51 to 54.
All right, Hank.
Roxanne Fregoso, Operations Specialist, served CAG Air Wing 2 at Nas Lemoore in California. Just got out in January this year.
Rick Maudsley, Lieutenant, United States Navy, 6th, 7th Fleet, Vietnam. Beat Army again.
I'm Emil Gifford. I was 17 years old, graduated high school on Friday night, and Saturday morning I was in Great Lakes boot camp. I also served in Korean and aboard the USS Fulton. Fulton was a ship that brought all the survivors back from the sinking of the Yorktown. So I'm very proud of that.
David Kahn, United States Navy, Lieutenant JG. I was a pilot in a VRC 50.
Jim Cronin, Navy Corpsman, 69 to 73, served primarily at the National Naval Medical Center. Currently, I'm with Department of Defense Agency, employer support for the Guard and Reserve. Been doing that the past 11 years, supporting the men and women in the Guard and Reserve.
Thank you, Corman.
My name is Diego Colunga. I was in the Navy from 1951 to 1955. I was on the Essex CVA now, aircraft mechanic.
Thank you.
Al Russell, guided missile photographer, USS Norton Sound.
Mike Contreras, United States Navy from 1969 to 1975, USS Sargo, SSN 583, submarine service. I guess I'm the only bubblehead here tonight.
And now it's the Air Force turn. Ron, you're up first.
Ron Crossman, Captain, United States Air Force, served in Libya, North Africa, and at the NATO base in Aviano, Italy.
Lieutenant Colonel John Heimberger, 667 combat missions and 4 airplanes in Vietnam. The Air Force Academy is 7,250 feet above sea level, far, far above that of West Point and Annapolis. Go Air Force.
Thank you. I'm Ralph Reed, Sergeant Ralph Reed. I joined the Air Force in 1966 as soon as I got out of the high school. I went to Europe and then went to Vietnam. I was air rescue specialist. Flew on the HH-43 rescue helicopters in Vietnam and Van Rang. 4 medals. Thank you.
I'm Staff Sergeant Andrew V. Buddy Blair, Senior Aircraft Mechanic and Engine Mechanic in the 5th Air Force. I was in the United States Army Air Force and the United States Air Force.
I'm Alan Simpson. I was a captain in the Air Force, flew B-52s and had 108 arc light missions in 69 and 70.
Tim Craze, U.S. Air Force, 6 years, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Sergeant.
Tom Solomon, Captain, United States Air Force, also an Air Force Academy graduate. Thank you.
All right.
Vietnam.
Staff Sergeant James Weiser, C-130 cargo planes, Vietnam.
Retired Chief Master Sergeant Jack Velasquez, 25 years of the 149th Fighter Group. I was in civil engineering, very blessed, great unit. Last 3 years, I was blessed to be the Senior Enlisted Advisor for the state of Texas and worked for General Wilson, and it was a great job. Thank you, guys. God bless you all.
Thank you, Jack.
Diane Gibbons, Captain, and I'm here as the Air Force Academy representative, class of 2004.
Staff Sergeant Cody Davis joined the Air Force right after September 11th, attained over 1,000 combat hours above Iraq and Afghanistan. Proud to be here.
Thank you.
Arthur Craig, Sergeant, Air Force, 66 to 69, Vietnam.
Senior Master Sergeant John Spike Garcia, 27 years. Operation Southern Watch, 2000. Operation Rocky Freedom, 2005, 2007. We put 100 100% of our bombs we put on targets were successful. And on 9/11, our F-16s escorted President Bush around the country.
Coast Guard. Well, apparently they've all re-enlisted. And our allied troops. In other words, someone who was on our side, but not. Short song. All right, let's bring the Marines back. Sweepers, man your brooms, you sailors. It's my pleasure to have been up here and watched all these men and women go by. It was a great tribute. It's just so great to see them be able to say what they did, and it's good. Congressman?
Thank you, Craig. Some of these posters you recognize, I hope, the individuals. There's Lieutenant Morgan there when he was, 14. Behind him is Lieutenant Colonel McDowell, who lives in our district. He's 110 years old. 104 years old, excuse me. I get the right age. 104 years old. Don't want to make him older than he is. And there's some others in the back. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for being here. The Marines, there's just nothing like the Marines. I love the Marines. I'm like Colonel Zimmerman. I was just in Darwin. That's a little outpost in northern Australia that we have. The Marines are there with the Australians. What a combination that is. Australian Marines and American Marines. But Ronald Reagan said a lot of people live their entire life wondering if they made a difference. The Marines don't have that problem. That's right. Army General once said there's only two groups that understand the Marine Corps, the Marines and the enemy. And, of course, that is true, too. But we thank all of y'all for being here tonight. We thank the families. We thank you veterans. We thank those of you who are serving. We love the military. Texas loves the military, and we are going to continue to support the military. I want to thank my staff, the Sheriff's Department, for being here. And don't forget, next door, there's chow. And that's just the way it is. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all being here.